how do you know what property is the right choice? People love to say you can't go wrong with property. I'm going to show you in the next few episodes that's simply not true. Profit versus poor choice. Same time frame, same budget. One choice made massive profits, the other was a poor choice. I'm going to open up what made the poor choice so bad, what was different about profit in property, and how you can tell the difference between the poor choice and the profit. I'm Junge Ma, lead research analyst at Investorkit. Now let's get into it. In this episode, we're going to look at a pair of properties. One is inside of the Melbourne CBD and the other far from it. Let's have a look which is the poor choice and which is the profit. Now let's have a look at the screen. The CBD property is a unit at a fancy building at 31 Beckett Street in Melbourne, Victoria 3000. It is a one-bed, one-bath unit without car space, but who really needs the car space? Because it's only one block from the central station. 44 square meters. It's fair for a one-bedroom apartment. It was built in 2010. And the good thing about this apartment is that it is on the 25th floor with a really nice city view. And it was sold in March 2014 for $335,000. So what do you think about it? Do you think it's attractive? In Melbourne CBD for that price, it seems like a bargain. But now let's have a look at the other property. This is a house in a suburb called Baxter on the Mornington Peninsula. It is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with 2 car spaces. Land is 800 square meters, while the house itself is 120 square meters. It's built in 1970. Compared to the first one, it's relatively old. And when it was sold in 2013, it is not renovated at all. What you can see here, if we look at the 2013 photos, not renovated at all, seems a bit old. And in December 2013, at around the same time, it was sold for $330,000. So what do you think about these two? One is right in the middle of Melbourne CBD. One is on the Mornington Peninsula, 8 minutes drive away from the nearby town center of Frankston, but 1 hour drive away from Melbourne CBD. I'll let you guess for a sec, and then we'll find out the results. So time's over. In 10 years, the first property, as we can see here, now the estimated value is $305,000. That is even lower than its price 10 years ago. To be exact, it is about 8% decline in its total value. At the same time, if we look at the rental estimate, not bad at all, $565 per week. However, if we look at the history, the rental history of it, it was listed for rent for $500 per week just June last year. That means it's probably currently rented for just $500. And if we calculate the yield on purchase based on that, the yield would be around 7.5%. And what's more, although we don't have the strata fee for this particular unit, a very similar unit in the same building on a similar floor, the annual strata fee is $5,000. And if we consider that $5,000 when calculating the yield, its yield would be 6%. Now let's move on to the second property. This Baxter house, after 10 years, the current estimated value is $715,000. And compared to the sales price 10 years ago, that is a 115% growth. Then how about rental price? And if we look at the rental estimate, currently the rent for this house is estimated at about $553 per week. And if we calculate our rental yield on purchase based on it, the yield would be more than 8%. Remember, the gross yield of the first property was 7.5%. Now I believe you can definitely tell which one is the profit and which one is the poor choice. But what made the poor choice the poor choice? I would say 2 things. One is that it is a unit But what made the poor choice the poor choice? I would say two things. One is the abundance and supply. In the 10 years from 2014 to 2024, unit supply in the Melbourne CBD actually increased by 23%. And the house supply in Baxter, Mornington, Peninsula didn't change at all. And if we look at the number of listings per capita or per 1,000 people, the difference is even more obvious. Currently in Melbourne CBD, we have 22 unit listings per 1,000 people. And on Mornington Peninsula, Baxter to be exact, there's only 9 houses listed for sale per 1,000 people. The second thing that made the poor choice would be the low land to asset ratio. The first property is a unit in a high-rise residential building, and it's relatively new. Therefore, the land value in its sales price should be very, very low. And compared to that, the Baxter house is a relatively old house, not renovated at all, on an 800 square meter land. You could tell that the land value in the sales price was really high. So now I'm going to tell you 3 red flags you could have identified so that you could have avoided these poor choices at the beginning. Red flag number 1, unit. As an asset type, unit is associated with 1, the oversupply risk, and 2, the potentially really high holding costs. Red flag number 2, new building or new apartment. When the property itself is a unit already, land to asset ratio is already really low. What made it worse was that the building was new. So you're paying much more on that apartment or the building itself than the actual land that you own. And red flag number 3 is the area. Melbourne CBD is full of high-rise residential buildings. It is the worst area you can think of for oversupply risks. So overall, 3 red flags. If you have remembered that, you could have avoided the poor choice at the first place. To summarize, today we compared 2 properties. One is a unit in Melbourne CBD. One is a house 1 hour from Melbourne CBD. 10 years later, the house far from Melbourne CBD won in both capital growth and cash flow. What made the difference? The red flags you could tell is 1, the type of asset, which is unit, 2, new building, and 3, oversupplied area. I'm Junge Ma, lead research analyst at Investorkit. If you want to find out more details about profit-driven property and how the Investorkit team sources them, click the link in the show notes below. Otherwise, have a great day and thanks for watching.